Hello, my poppets. Today, I'm going to read to you The Frog Prince from the Grimm brothers. Long ago, when wishes often came true, there lived a king whose beautiful daughters were all handsome, but the youngest was so beautiful that the sun himself, who had seen everything, was bemused every time that he shone over her because of her beauty. Near the royal castle, there was a great dark wood, and in the wood, under an old linden tree, was a well. And when the day was hot, the king's daughter used to go forth in the wood and sit by the brink and take out a golden ball, throwing it up in the air and catching it again, and this was her favorite pastime. Now it happened on one day that the golden ball fell instead of back into the little maiden's hand, which had set it aloft, and dropped to the ground near the edge of the well and rolled in. The king's daughter followed it with her eyes as it sank, but the well was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. Then she began to weep, and she wept and wept as if she could never be comforted. And amidst her weeping, she heard a voice saying to her, "What ails you, king's daughter? Your tears would melt a heart of stone." And when she looked to see where the voice came from, there was nothing but a frog stretching his thick, ugly head out of the water. "Oh, is it you, old waddler?" she asked. I weep because my golden ball has fallen into the well." "Never mind, do not weep," answered the frog. "I can help you. But what will you give me if I fetch up your ball again?" "Whatever you like, dear frog," she said. "Any of my clothes, my pearls and my jewels, or even the gold crown that I wear." "Your clothes and your pearls and jewels and your golden crown are not for me," answered the frog. "But if you would love me and have me for your companion and playfellow and allow me to sit by you at the table and eat from your plate and drink from your cup and sleep in your little bed, if you would promise me all of this, then I would dive below the water and fetch you your golden ball again." "Oh yes," she answered, "I promise it all, whatever you want, if only you will give me my ball again." But she thought to herself, "What nonsense, he talks, as if he could do anything but sit in the water and croak with the other frogs, or perhaps be somebody's companion." Well, the frog, as soon as he heard her promise, drew his head under the water and sank down out of sight. But after a while he came to the surface again with the ball in his mouth, and he threw it on the grass. The king's daughter was so overjoyed to see her pretty plaything again, she caught it up and ran off with it. "Stop, stop," cried the frog, "take me up too. I cannot run as fast as you." But it was of no use, for croak, croak after her he might. She would not listen to him, but made haste home, and very soon forgot all about the poor frog, who had to betake himself to his well again. The next day, when the king's daughter was sitting at the table with the king and all the court, and eating from her little golden plate, there came a pitter-patter upon the marble stairs, and then there came a knocking at the door, and a voice crying, "Youngest king's daughter, let me in." And she got up and ran to see who it could be, but when she opened the door, there was a frog sitting outside. She then shut the door hastily and went back to her seat, feeling very uneasy. "My child," the king noticed how quickly her heart was beating, and asked, "What are you afraid of? Is there a giant standing at the door ready to carry you away?" "Oh no," she answered, "no giant, but a horrid frog." "And what does the frog want?" asked the king. "Oh, dear father," she answered, "I was sitting by the well yesterday and playing with my golden ball, and it fell into the water, and while I was crying for the loss of it, the frog came and got it again for me on the condition that I would leave him and let him be my companion. But I never thought he could leave the water and come after me. But now here he is outside the door, and he wants to come into me." And then they all heard him knocking the second time, crying, "Youngest king's daughter, open to me. By the well water, what you promised me. youngest king's daughter, now open to me. That which hast thou promised, thou must perform, said the king. So go now and let him in. So she went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in, following at her heels, till she reached her chair. Then he stopped and cried, "Lift me up and let me sit by you." But she delayed so long in doing so that the king ordered her, and once the frog was on the chair, he wanted to get on the table, and there he sat. "Now push your golden plate a little nearer so that we may eat together." And so she did, but everybody might see how unwilling she was. And the frog feasted heartily, but every morsel seemed to stick in her throat. "I've had enough now," the frog said at long last. "And as I am tired, you must carry me to your room and make ready your silken bed, and we will lie down together and go to sleep." When the king's daughter began to weep, and was afraid of the cold frog, that nothing would satisfy him, but she must let him sleep in her bed. Well, now the king grew angry with her, saying, "Thou which thou hast promised, in thy time of necessity, must thou now perform." So she picked up the frog with her finger and thumb and carried him upstairs. And when she arrived, she placed him in a corner to lay down to sleep. But he came up creeping, saying, "I am tired and want to sleep as much as you. Take me up, or I will tell your father." Then she felt beside herself with rage, and picking him up, she threw him with all of her strength against the wall, crying, "Now will you be quiet, you horrid frog!" But as he fell, he ceased to be a frog, and all at once became a prince with beautiful kind eyes. And it came to pass, with her father's consent, that they became bride and bridegroom. And he told her of how a wicked witch had bound him by her spells, and how no one but she alone could have released him, and that they two would go together to his father's kingdom. And there came to a door a carriage drawn by 8 white horses, with white plumes on their heads, and with golden harnesses. And behind the carriage was standing faithful Henry, the servant of the young prince. Now faithful Henry had suffered such care and pain when his master had been turned into a frog, that he was obliged to wear 3 iron bands to keep his heart from breaking with trouble and anxiety. And when the carriage started to take the prince to his kingdom, and faithful Henry had helped them both in, he got up behind and was so full of joy at his master's deliverance. And when they had gone part of the way, the prince had heard a sound at the back of the carriage, as if something had broken, and he turned around and cried, "Henry, the wheel must be breaking." But Henry answered, "The wheel does not break. 'Tis the band round my heart, that to lessen its ache, when I grieved for your sake, I bound round my heart." And again, and yet once again, was the same sound, and the prince thought it must be the wheel breaking. But it was the breaking of the other bands from faithful Henry's heart, because he was so relieved and happy. So, that was the Frog Prince. And it's a little different from the story we hear today, but you can tell how things are able to adapt and grow through the times. And if you'd like to talk with me about it, we can go ahead and discuss things in the comments below.